So first off, the first video is called "You Don't Need Knife Skills, Just Walk, Don't Run." I already disagree with that title.
Because knife skills actually have a practical function in the professional kitchen. They're not purely symbolic or ceremonial. What I would challenge is the notion that what is good for the professional kitchen is necessarily good for the home kitchen. That's as absurd as saying what's good for a professional bodybuilder is good for a guy who's just trying to stay reasonably fit. Hi Jay, love you, miss you. Let me try to...
Okay, so the reason cooks and chefs use their knife skills, it's not equivalent to doing it to a bodybuilder. The reason we use these knife skills is because it's the safest way. Knife skills come down to a matter of safety and control over your knife and making sure you don't cut your hands off. So that's my first beef. That's just a false equivalency.
Most of us mere mortals stabilize the food with the pads of the fingers on the non-cutting hand. In culinary school, they teach you to tuck your fingertips up so that the worst you could do is shave a little skin off of your knuckles. It'd be really hard to cut into your fingertips doing this. At least that's the theory. In practice, does using the claw technique actually prevent injury? I don't know. I haven't been able to find any kind of scientific research on the subject.
Yes, it does prevent injury. No, I doubt anybody's done any scientific research, but I can guarantee you pretty much anybody who has previously used poor knife skills and switched to a claw technique can tell you from experience that they have much greater control. They've cut themselves before. I've cut myself with bad knife technique way back in the day. I don't anymore. Except for, like you said, maybe shaving your knuckle a little bit. I don't think you need scientific data to prove this one, but let's go.
See, I'm walking, not running. The knife stops moving at the bottom of every single chop. I bring it back up again, reset, and cut. That is a walk, don't...
Your fingers are still potentially in the way. I don't understand why you think that that's a good method. If your knife slips, if for some reason you hit something and your knife decides to curve one way, because that'll happen sometimes. It just, you have a wrist malfunction. Your fingers are in the fucking way, dude. They're not in the way if you're clawing. I don't understand how you think it's valid to say this.
But I feel bad that in the process I might have given a lot of people the impression that they too need to be mowing through things the way that Marco does. Hell, even Marco says,
you don't have to turn them into matchsticks like I do. I'm quite competent with a knife, so it's easy for me. But if your knife skills aren't that great, just chop.
Just chop! Just chop your food into smaller pieces however you can.
There's a difference between doing traditional French cuts and proper knife technique. They're not the same thing.
Just like a deadlift, I reset my form every chop when I'm cutting food. If I became distracted, if a child...
But this is horrifying. There's no justifiable reason I see to say that this is okay to do. And his finger's on the spine, which destabilizes. Finger on the spine of the blade is not as secure as a pinch grip. It's just not.
Suddenly came barreling into the kitchen or something, I don't think I would slip and cut myself because I'm reestablishing my concentration on every single stroke.
And he's scraping the blade across the cutting board.
Onion that I need for my dinner. Big deal. But if I were chopping 100 onions for a restaurant, 40 seconds an onion adds up to more than an hour saved. That actually is a big deal.
It's not about speed, it's about safety. Yes, speed matters in the context of a professional kitchen. Speed matters when you're on the clock and you have to get food prepped and ready for service. It's more about safety than it is about speed. Use that method because it's safe. A lot of justification rather than admitting this is just him trying... And I don't want to sound like I have a fucking problem with Adam Ragusea, because I really don't. I think he makes some really fascinating content. But this is just completely wrong. Why would you not... If you're trying to do something and you know that the professionals do it a certain way, and it's a thing that is completely attainable to you to do it like a professional, you don't have the thought, well, maybe these professionals do it for a reason. And you wouldn't think, maybe I should emulate that. It's a whole bunch of fucking copium. Why wouldn't you want to learn how to cut quickly if it's something that you feel is attainable? If you have to cook for yourself most days, like most human beings do, cooking is a time-consuming process. Because it's a time-consuming process, it can be exhausting sometimes. Even to those of us who love cooking, sometimes cooking is just exhausting. So if you have the ability to do something quicker, wouldn't it make you want to do that? Wouldn't it make you want to learn how to do that quicker?
In contrast, if you're a long-haul trucker doing a 1,000-mile route, pushing your average highway speed from, say, 60 to 70, that's going to save you more than 2 hours, and that actually matters. It's all about scale, people. If you're doing...
These arguments just don't make sense in the context of what we're talking about. They're not the same thing.
Now you might be wondering, well, Adam, do you have any evidence to back up the notion that cutting slowly with your fingers out is just as safe as cutting fast with your fingers in? No, I don't have any evidence, but...
Then what are you saying? Then what's your point?
About 7,000 incidents from 2018, the most recent year available. Each of these has what they call a narrative attached to it. 33-year-old male was cutting limes with a knife and cut left thumb. I did a little analysis of these narratives and came up with this visualization. It's linked in the description. This shows the...
I mean, listen, dude, if you cut your left, this is a claw. See that? See that? That's the claw method. Feels weird doing it with this hand. That's the claw. Your thumb is tucked. So we can infer that if he cut his thumb while cutting a lime, his hand was not clawed. Or do you just want to glaze over that? Because your argument is there's no evidence to support what you say, so there's no evidence to support what I say either, but I'm right.
And you do you. Get your food into smaller pieces however feels right to you. Just don't let some chef bully you into thinking you're not a real cook because you can't go...
Yeah, don't let somebody who knows how to do it tell you the right way, is what he just fucking said. Don't let somebody who does it for a living, who knows better because they do it for a living, tell you, and then try to call it bullying because you don't like what the fuck they're saying.
Speed kills. Arrive alive.
That sucked. I mean, like, I don't know how you can justify any of that as logical. Like, he used a bunch of analogies that didn't fit. And then saying that there's no studies, so we don't know that you're right. So I'm going to say this thing that we also don't know that I'm right, but I'm going to tell you this way, even though professionals that have done it for years have done it this way. It's just not fucking sensical. And it's dangerous. It's just flat out fucking dangerous. That's all there is to it. To tell somebody that it's okay to do it this shitty way when the other way is done because it's safer. It's not because it's faster. It's safer. And because it's safer, you can go faster. It's not that fucking hard. Especially because he's someone with an audience. That is something that bothers me. It's the same reason I had that issue with the Sam the Cooking Guy knife sharpening video. If you just want to sharpen like that, fine, whatever. But you have a fucking huge audience. And if I'm actually wrong about something, fucking call me out. I want to be called out. I like being wrong. Because when I'm wrong, I learn something new. So if I'm ever just flat out fucking wrong about something, and you have the evidence to back up telling me that I'm wrong, because there's the caveat, fucking tell me. I want to know. Because I don't want to put shit information out. This next one is called Basic Knife Skills for Normals, Not Chefs. This was released 9 days ago, and I have a feeling he's just going to be rehashing the same stuff he said and also selling his knife. Let's find out. Only reason Babish knife doesn't trigger you is the price. That's exactly why it's a good knife. He got it right with the price. It is a passable knife at a very good price. It's actually, I think, a little underpriced. But that's why it's such a good knife. And that's what none of these other YouTubers seem to get when they release their knives.
Technique that I have used for decades at this point. It's just what I kind of do naturally, and it would be totally impractical and indeed dangerous for somebody who had to work really fast, for a professional who has to go through a bunch of onions. I don't have to do that. I can go slow, and this is what I do. Slice from the top almost down to the bottom at an angle instead of straight down. Repeat and just orbit around the natural curvature of the onion. That part isn't...
Oh, helical cuts. Okay, so as he said multiple times that he's not a chef, he's proving this to us. because this is not more dangerous in a professional setting. I use the helical method. This isn't more dangerous. This is my preferred method of chopping onions. I love doing helical cuts. I think it's actually way more practical than using like the cross cuts that you usually see on traditional knife cutting. This is the, in my opinion, a better method. There's absolutely nothing wrong with using this professionally. You can cut through onions just as quickly.
Check how much more uniform those pieces are. Not that I think it really matters, but this is just something I do, so I'm showing it to you.
This is a fairly well-established method. The helical cuts are just as good, and you get more even cuts. Kenji Lopez has a whole fucking infographic that he made on how to do the helical cuts and why it's preferable.
When you're a professional, you need to realize some economies of scale. If you can shave 35 seconds off of an operation that you do 100 times a night, that's an hour that you have just...
Once again, it is not about speed. It is about safety. I'm going to start sounding like a fucking broken record right now. The claw grip is not about speed. It is about safety. And again, you can go faster because it is safer. It's not that hard.
I simply don't need to put in the time it takes to master this very safe, very effective, but very unnatural and awkward maneuver known as the claw grip.
All proper technique across pretty much anything feels awkward and unnatural until you get used to it. Proper weightlifting technique feels weird until you get used to it. To, bring back one of his analogies from the other video. That's why you teach proper technique, because it's not the natural way that you do it. That's the whole reason why proper technique gets taught. It's because it's not how you naturally do it. Then you practice it, and then it makes sense. When I first started using a pinch grip on a knife, when I first started using a claw grip, yeah, the shit felt weird, but I also knew it was the safer, proper way to do it, and I stuck with it. And now to not do it that way feels weird.
I'm not a professional cook, nor do I need to try to imitate a professional.
You can stop telling us you're not a professional cook. We are well aware of that. This is so fucking irresponsible to put this information out there when you have a platform as large as yours. Like, this sounds like a flex, and it is a little bit, but the claw method is safe to the point that I can chop mushrooms not looking at them. You could blindfold me and I could chop mushrooms. I've done it. It's kind of a flex, yes, but it's also to prove a point that that's how safe the claw method is because you're creating, against your fucking guide knuckles, you're creating a wall for your knife to go up and down and to stay in place.
I'm rocking the knife back and forth pretty fast because look, my other hand...
Do you guys see it? Do you guys see it? I'm not even talking about his hands. Do you see what's happening?
And is nowhere near this whole mess. It doesn't need to be. There's nothing to stabilize. I'll just bring it over to...
His cutting board isn't stabilized. I think that he thinks these grips are fine, but his fucking cutting board is moving back and forth. In a fucking video where he's talking about knife safety, he doesn't have a stable cutting board. Sidebar, you can cross-cut a clove of garlic just like you would an onion, and that's a really good way to get really quick, easy minced garlic. Although for that, I would typically recommend using something like a paring knife, something a little bit smaller. But I cross-cut my garlic cloves a lot when I need minced garlic quickly.
Easily one of my top 5 favorite things to eat, as long as I've got some tomatoes in there too. I swear this is as good and cheap and
Is he really stirring the soup with the knife?
Easy as it is nutritious. And yes, time to acknowledge the elephant in the room, the new custom Adam Ragusea.
Your new knife is not the elephant in the room. We knew from the very beginning that you were selling this. You stirred your fucking soup with a knife. What is wrong with you?
Go ahead and Google this particular German steel we've used. You will see that it's a great steel for kitchen knives. Maybe not the best, certainly not the most expensive, but it's probably the best steel you can get that is easy to own. And by that I mean it is particularly resistant to tarnish and corrosion, and it is easy to sharpen. So this is hard steel, hard enough that it can get a really...
X50 is not hard steel. X50 tops out at like 58, 59. X50 is not hard steel. X50 is a soft steel. Next week's video is that knife. That knife is going to be sitting in my P.O. box. It'll actually probably be sitting in my P.O. box by the time this video gets up. So I'm going to have hands-on with the knife in the next few days, and we're gonna pick this thing apart. We're going to see everything good, everything bad about it. Normal website review, which, oh my God, do I have some things to say about the website review. Guys, I actually like Adam Ragusea. I think he's a good cook. I think he has some really insightful stuff to say about a lot of different stuff. He does not need to be speaking on knives and knife skills and knife safety. To put out that information as knives as that's acceptable with your platform when there's a reason that chefs do it a certain way, and to not even think to try to emulate that, then call it bullying when somebody tries to correct you, that's not right. It's irresponsible. That's the video. Hit the like button, a little thumbs up right there. Hit the subscribe button. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about his knife skills. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, tell me I'm wrong. I want to hear if I'm wrong. I like to be corrected because then I learn things. So that does it for the video. I love y'all. I'll see you soon.